This episode is sponsored by Agent CRM. If you're in sales and tired of paying 3, 4, or 5 different companies for your email, CRM, funnels, phone, follow-up automation, check out Agent CRM. It's an all-in-one tool that combines all that you need to reach out, nurture, and close your clients. They've got weekly support calls so you can get up and running in no time. Get a free 14-day trial by going to the link below in the show notes. Hey everyone, this is Dan Nguyen with the Intentional Entrepreneur Podcast. I have a very special guest with me today. He is a sales training professional that works with other professionals and entrepreneurs to radically uplevel their sales results. He is an author, speaker, elite sales trainer, master hypnotherapist, and master practice of Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Over the past 30 years, he's guided tens of thousands of people to use the power of their words to design their own results. I do want to welcome to the show, Paul Ross.
Thank you. Before we begin this fascinating exploration of the world of unconscious persuasion, I can't be the one to suggest all the places you might stop.
Very good. I think
feel that growing focus on what it is you're starting to feel fascinated. But as that's taking place, I'm so honored to be the leader of this expedition that we're having together today.
Thank you very much. We really are pleased to have you here and to talk about unconscious or subconsciously erasing prospect objections within the sales process. Before we kind of get into the nitty gritty, can you share a little bit about yourself and how you got to what you're doing today?
So I started out, boy, you don't know this. There's someone in the background there, just entered your office, but
yeah.
Okay. I started out, can you see that picture behind me?
Yeah, it's a newspaper article, right?
Can you see who that is in the article?
Looks like Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise played me in the movie Magnolia, or he played a character that I created. So my alter ego is Ross Jeffries, and I started the whole pickup women community back 30 years ago. I've been written about extensively in a best-selling book called The Game, and I've been the subject of documentaries and blah, 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 blah. So if you really think about it, the corollary, the analog between sales and dating is actually quite close, because you have to do your prospecting, you have to establish rapport, ask your qualifying questions, demonstrate the use of the product, do your trial close, and hopefully get testimonials and avoid buyer's remorse. So quite seriously, what began to happen is around 2005, excuse me, I started to get emails from clients saying, thank you, I use my stuff. Here's a picture of my lady and my children. And by the way, I've been using your stuff to 3x, 4x my sales results. By the way, if you want to see what I really can do, there's a sick example. I got a guy, 20x. He went from $1,500 a month to $30,000 a month using my stuff. Go to paulrossresults.com. That sounds unbelievable, but you'll see. It's quite credible. In any case, so I thought, hey, dumbass, figure out how to use this and teach it and get people to make tons of money and make tons of money yourself. So that's how I got into it. Now, what we're going to be talking about today, overcoming objections, is a subset of influence and persuasion. Because to me, Dan, influence and persuasion are all about creating one thing and one thing only: compliance. I don't want my clients just to agree with me or to be eager or interested. I want them to comply. Essentially, I want them, as a hypnotist, I want them to get into a state of high suggestibility, where the part of their brain that makes the decisions, the subconscious or unconscious mind, I use the terms interchangeably. Being a hypnotist, it really doesn't matter. The same thing. Where that part of the mind where we make the decisions anyway, the really important ones, where that part of mind is activated, directed at me, looking at my proposition through that filter so they convince themselves to buy. That's the most important.
I've heard Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or NLP for short, being described as language of the brain, or maybe language of influence. Can you share a little bit about, if our listeners aren't familiar with that, what is NLP?
That's like asking two rabbis, what is the nature of God? You're going to get 1,000
Or
answers.
maybe the answer is, it wise to use?
I, well, Dan, I'll give you my definition, my operational definition. I would actually probably not flunk a test on NLP jargon, but I'd get a C minus. However, I can do it in the real world. To me, NLP is about two things. It's about modeling talent. So it's about looking at people who have extraordinary talent, extracting out the elements of that talent, looking at how each one fits into the general recipe of getting that result, taking out anything that's extraneous or doesn't really belong, and then teaching people how to duplicate that talent. That's the first thing. The second thing is it's a distillation, it's a unpacking of the techniques of a very, very famous hypnotherapist, Milton H. Erickson, who's the father of modern hypnotherapy. He took that hypnosis out of the dark ages of look into my eyes and watch the pocket watch swinging and the rest of it, and brought it into the modern era, made it very conversational and covert. And Bandler and Grinder, the co-founders of NLP, modeled him. They extracted how he used his language, his intonation, his formulas for getting people to change rapidly. So a lot of NLP, I think, is that. And finally, it's the study of how language structures consciousness, shapes decisions, and drives behavior.
You mentioned Milton Erickson, and I've studied NLP previously, and I remember the story. You can correct me on the details, but I think he was working on a client, and maybe there were students with him, and they asked him a question like, "How did you know they changed state?" Or I forget the exact question, but his answer was, "I saw the pulse on their ankle change." Do you know this story?
Not that particular story, but I'm aware of what he's talking about.
Yeah. So just kind of interesting about his mastery of,
Well,
the
see,
obviously.
Erickson was not just, I don't want to dive into Erickson, but
Yeah, of course,
he's
of course.
just the master of using language to now allow Dan, as you listen to the sound of my voice, to feel a shift in your focus in on what it is you're saying on the inside that lets you really listen. But as that's taking place, he was also a master of sensory acuity, of noticing the slight little changes that indicate that you are shifting to an unconscious state.
Mm-hmm. So today, obviously, we're talking about subconsciously erasing prospect objections, which is, objections is a very big part of, salespeople, and not just salespeople. I think every day, parents, educators.
I learned this, oh boy, I learned this in teaching my dating stuff. I used to hear, I've got a boyfriend all the time. So I had to learn how to do what's known as a pattern interrupt. A pattern interrupt is based on the fact that people are pattern making machines. We're used to responding, acting, feeling, thinking, behaving in fixed patterns. When our patterns are broken, we become suggestible. And when we're suggestible, if you're skillful enough, the operator can lead the suggestible person in a completely new direction for thinking, feeling, acting, and responding. So,
Much like the siren from Greek mythology.
oh yeah, you heard that. I live 1,000 feet from the emergency room of a major hospital here in San Diego. God forbid I have a heart attack. We know what happens.
But you're close by. But I guess, when would be the appropriate time to use pattern interrupt? Is it solely when there's an objection?
Well, that's a good question. Generally speaking, objections, like back when I was doing the whole dating training, I would train guys to say, when the woman says, I have a boyfriend, she expects you to either argue with her or beg her to give the number or to just walk away. And my standard answer I taught my students is, now, Debbie, you don't need to convince me someone else finds you attractive. That's not how I'll make up my mind about you. So it's a complete pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's how we use it in sales.
Mm-hmm.
Let's role play, Dan. So say to me, I need more time to think it over. Just say those words.
I need more time to think it over.
Dan, I understand. May I ask you a question?
Yes.
Have you ever taken a long time to think something over and it still turned out to be a horrible decision?
Yes.
Maybe it's not about time. but about the clarity you need to recognize a great decision is being made. So as you find yourself thinking about it just like that, what is it that we need to clarify for you to recognize now is the time to act? Do you hear how I've chained together? I've not only given amnesia to that objection, you can't even think about it anymore because I've linked that objection to pain. Now I've redefined the meaning away from taking time into you needing clarity, and I've implied that I'm the only person who can provide that clarity for you.
I've heard the stated objection is not always the real objection.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I've been this on the other side too, car dealerships, people trying to update me, sell me new long distance service, trying to transfer me or sell me new, cable TV or a satellite service. For, you know, how would one pull out the true objection from a sales prospect?
Oftentimes your prospect doesn't know what the objection is. What I want to do is create a container where their prospect can tell me without feeling stupid. So I would precede that. See, here's the principle. I wasn't planning on teaching this, but it's crucial. Understand first and foremost, from my weird perspective, and which I teach in my book, Subtle Words That Sell, you can get a free digital copy. I'll tell you how to download it in a minute at the end of the show. So in my world, you're not selling cars or products or services, Dan. You're always selling decisions and good feelings about decisions. That's the first thing you have to understand. And so in order to sell that decision, that implies that the prospect not only has to trust you, that's not enough anymore. Nowadays, they have to trust themselves. They have to trust their own ability to make a good decision. And prospects don't trust that, and probably for a good reason. Here's the number one reason they don't trust it. Because they can't focus enough to make a good decision. A good decision requires focus. Write that down, folks. A good decision requires focus. So, even if your prospect comes in eager and ready to buy, what happens if they lose focus or get a text while you're talking to them, or they're scrolling, or they just did that and they have the focus of a goldfish? How do you create virtually hypnotic states of focus where you can install the suggestion that they can trust themselves? That's what I claim you can do. My wild bat. Can I curse a little bit on your show?
Yes, this is not FCC regulated, so
My batshit crazy claim is you can do all of these in the first couple of minutes. So I would say something like, so before we explore our opportunities together today, I just want to invite you to please share the questions that naturally arise when a great decision is being made. Now, there's a lot more going on in that phrase than you might
Mhm.
think. Before we is what I call an implied relationship word. That's before I show you the cars on the lot. Before we explore is an interesting world. For every exploration, there must be a follower. And for every follower, there must be a
Leader.
exactly. So in that sentence, you're implying that you are the leader and they are your followers. You're not saying it. So on the unconscious level, the unconscious is starting to think, oh, they're my follower, they're my leader. Okay, I'll believe what they say. And then I give the suggestion, a great decision is being made. Now that's very vague. I didn't say a great decision for you to buy a car today is being made. Why didn't I put it that way? Well, if I put it that way, it's like, you pushy bastard, I'm leaving this car lot. But when I say a great decision is being made, excuse me, it's vague. And when you're vague, the unconscious mind has to go down and begin to sort through and sift through what does that mean? And because of the nature of what you're setting up, the unconscious mind will come to the conclusion the great decision is to buy. We're not saying how or what or when or where. We leave that to the unconscious to fill in those blanks.
Yeah. As I listen to your words and listen to your tonality, I can sense that there is some intentionality behind them. And I've studied sales, I studied the sales process, and one of the first things we taught how to do is build rapport with the prospects. So, what would you say is the first 4 words that you can use in a sales presentation within the first minute to really create immediately that rapport
We,
with them?
we, our, together, invite, and share. There's 5. Before we begin our exploration together of this opportunity, they all imply a relationship. I just want to invite you, not ask you, invite you. An invitation implies that you're doing something and you're offering a gift to someone. I just want to invite you to please ask the questions. No, I didn't say ask, I said share. It's a subtle shift, but remember, subtle is powerful. Hence the name of my book, Subtle Words That Sell. There's another plug. You can get it for free at the end of the show. So that's what I would do. And words are powerful. Again, words, language, structure consciousness, shape decisions, drive behavior. That's how I can get my clients to see not 30% increase, but sometimes 20 times increase in their sales, which is, again, crazy, but you'll be able to see how I actually do that soon.
Yeah. What I've learned is sales is a large part of the sales is mindset. A large part of being a business owner is mindset. So how would you say like traditional teachings, common teachings about mindset really actually get in the way of being a very
Yeah.
successful salesperson or business owner?
Yeah. Be super positive, be enthusiastic about the sale, visualize yourself winning, blah, blah, blah. Be committed to making that sale. And I say, here's the problem. You get too attached to the result. There's a great teaching in Zen. Zen makes it very much about process oriented.
Mm-hmm.
When they say there is no such thing as a cup, they're not saying the cup isn't there or doesn't exist. It's saying the cup is not a thing. It's an ongoing, ever arising process of something that's continually shifting and changing. So this is very much a Zen way of looking at sales. So the first thing I say is be interested in the sale, but be invested in your skills. And a breakfast of bacon and eggs, the chicken is interested, the pig is invested. So I'm not saying be a pig when you sell, but you get the analogy, you get the metaphor.
What's your take on sales scripts?
I write fantastic sales. Well, they can be shitty ones or they can be really good. I just helped someone double their open rates. And this is not a joke with the number. I know it's going to sound like a joke number. Their cold email open rates are 69% because I got a different subject line. And then their response rate, their click-through rate from the email has been improved by 200%. So if you know how to use it, and those are great numbers. As you know, a cold email, usually you'd be happy with 15%. You'd be through the roof overjoyed. So scripts can work powerfully. My focus right now is working with high-ticket sales teams. So if you have a high-ticket program you're selling to people online, I'll go in there and if I can't increase the results by at least 30% in 90 days, I don't get paid. There's no fee. I just collect the difference. So I really have to write some damn good scripts. Now, here's the thing. You have to sound natural. And I train that too. You have to be able to sound like you're not reading. So I train people to throw in some fakes.
So it does sound natural.
And when I do my hypnotic stuff, you can pick up on the intentionality of it, but it sounds like natural. It's smooth. It doesn't sound like I'm reading from the script because I'm not. I've got it up here, having done it for 30 years.
So how much would you say like is practice you mentioned role playing before. How important is that as part of learning, overcoming conscious objections, and even just the sales process?
It's important. And let me add this in. There has to be an element of play. My mentor, Richard Bandler, taught me you can be thorough and accurate without being serious. And that stuck with me. See, Bandler and a guy named Gary Halbert taught me too. Gary Halbert was my teacher for copywriting, writing
Mm-hmm.
ads and influencing people that way. And Gary taught me something. He said, no one has time to figure out your pathetic subtlety. I'll never forget that. And Richard Bandler taught me, if you're serious, you're in a world of shit. You can be thorough without being serious. So you've got to add in that sense of humor and sense of perspective and the kind of confidence that says, I'll either get what I want or I'll learn what I need to get what I want or better. Now, Dan, the challenge becomes, and it begs the question, everyone tells you learn from every experience. How many times have you heard that? Have you ever heard that in a seminar or a lecture? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
has anyone ever given you exact process on how to do that?
No, just I don't stick. Yeah.
No.
Don't.
So that's like my car is broken. I know nothing. I can't change a
Yeah.
tire to save my life. I can't change my oil. I have to get that done, by the way. I'm reminding myself. That's like my car is broken down in the desert. My cell phone has 2% power. I managed to get through to roadside assistance and describe a problem. And they say, oh, you just need to unscrew the phragostat, connect it to the woosit, and add some flocculika fluid. And then the phone dies. I'm thinking, oh, if I knew how to do that, I wouldn't be calling you, idiot. So the one distinction between myself and every other sales training out there is I know how to teach this. Because think about it, my former career as a seduction pickup artist coach, I had to teach guys who were 30, 40, 50-year-old virgins how to learn from their mistakes. And believe me, they were making every mistake in the book, or they wouldn't be 30, 40, 50-year-old virgins. So I've developed a specific technique so you can distill out exactly what you've been doing, first and foremost, correctly, then what you've been doing less accurately, and then rehearse doing it right. So you're right back out there in the field. Instead of, you know how in sales you can go in streaks, you're feeling enthusiastic and then suddenly, boom. No, I can keep you steadily going up. So you don't see just incremental improvements, you see exponential, explosive growth. And this is the thing. If you want to stick with the same old sales training you've done before, the stuff you've taken here, there, and everywhere, you will get incremental improvements, but you have to keep pressing that button and you get diminishing returns, and your competition is all doing it. If your competition is taking the same Zig Ziglar or whatever it is, then it becomes a foot race to get to the prospect first. And I'm too much of an old lazy ass to do that, which is why I came up with something radically different and why that's what I offer to my clients.
Are your clients typically like sales professionals? You mentioned writing copy. Do you ever work with retail type brands or
No, I don't
no?
do that. Look, here's the thing. First and foremost, I only work with people who are doing really well. I'm not for people who are just climbing. You already have to be doing high six figures or into the seven figures because I am not cheap. You get what you pay for. I'm by far and away the most expensive sales trainer you'll ever be glad you hired. I teach people who are entrepreneurs, business people, sales professionals who are already doing very well. I'm not there yet. I'm beginning to niche into high ticket sales. So these are people, if you scroll through your Instagram or Facebook, you see ads. If you're a coach, if you're a fitness trainer, I guarantee I'll show you how to get 20 new clients in 90 days, or I'll work with you for free until I do, blah, blah, blah. I help them sell those programs. And no matter who I work with, my guarantee is if I can't first of all, I'll increase your sales by 30% at least in 90 days, and you don't pay me anything up front. Nothing. Zero. My fee is the difference between where we started and where you're at the end of that 90 days. So that gives me incentive to work hard, and they have no risk because they're not paying me anything.
That's a pretty hard offer to beat.
Well, but you know what? That's why I can afford to be selective. I work with 3 people a quarter because my work I put in, I not only know how to teach the NLP side, I can write copy. I've made millions of dollars writing copy. I'm the only person in the world that you'd be able to hire who can do both. I can write great ads for you, whether that's sales videos or space ads or Facebook ads. And I also know how to do the subconscious persuasion for your sales scripts and your negotiators. So I charge a piss load of money, but I'm worth every penny. And you don't pay me up front, which is total risk reversal.
Yeah. So you're kind of like the trainer's trainer or the coach's coach.
Yep, I'm the secret weapon that they come to.
All right. We're here with Paul Ross, master NLP uh, trainer, I suppose, but hypnotherapist, sales coach. Hey, we are getting towards the end here. If there's one thing you could leave for our listeners here to increase their sales, what would you say?
Remember, you are never selling your product or service. You're always selling decisions and good feelings about decisions. And those are made on the subconscious/unconscious level. And if you don't know how to directly speak to that part of the mind predictably, reliably, and systematically, you're going to get incremental results instead of explosive growth that I get my clients.
Thank you, Paul Ross. Hey, we're going to get into the hot seat portion of the interview. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. At the end, I'd like to tell them how they can get a free copy of my book and get it.
Of course. Who do you look up to?
Wow. Well, I look up to my mentors, Shinzen Young, my greatest meditation teacher and the smartest human being I've ever met. Richard Bandler, my mentor for NLP. And then I look up to my parents who passed 2007 and 2008, but I lived the way they taught me to live, which is be of service first, protect the innocent. That's one of my high values, and live my full potential every day.
What's the best business advice you've ever received?
This is a good one. $10,000 spent on a private investigator beats $500,000 spent in a lawsuit. Always hire a private investigator before you do any deal more than 5 figures. Always do it.
Oh, I've never heard that one. That's a really good one.
It's a really good one. It saved me a lot of heartache.
What's the best business book you've ever read?
Blue Ocean Strategy. And then this book is the single best book. Oh, no, I don't want to promote someone else's book. Blue Ocean Strategy.
I think I knew that book was based on the color.
All right.
But Blue Ocean Strategy, I agree. It's ironically, it was kind of a dry, but if you kind of parse the ideas, it was very powerful.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the term 3 feet from gold?
Yes, Greg Reed, my mentor, wrote it.
So, as a entrepreneur, how do you know when you're just 3 feet from gold or when to pivot in your business?
This is a great question because I'm pivoting in multiple areas. You know how you know when to pivot? When you see diminishing returns. When you see diminishing returns and you're having to push, or you're having to push harder to get the same results, and or you see your market is shrinking. Just as an example, for the pickup seduction side of my business, I'm taking down all the products. I'm stopping the private coaching, stopping the seminars. We're going all AI. You'll be able to get that side of my business, the speed seduction AI. We're rolling that out next Monday because I'm seeing, hey, I don't want to be Blockbuster in the era of Netflix. So those are my ideas. Pivot. We're making some other pivots that I don't care to discuss.
Very good. If you could do one thing over again, what would it be?
In any area of life?
In any area of life.
Oh dear. I would have taken all the stuff I know about pickup and seduction and women, traveled back in time 30 years and taught it to myself 30, 40 years ago.
You lose everything, and the only thing you have is your laptop, cell phone, and internet connection. How do you rebuild your business in 30 days?
Keeping my team. My team, I could not go do anything without my team. My operations manager, Adam, he runs my business. If something happened to him, I would be out on the street within 90 days to 6 months because the money would dry up and I couldn't do anything without him. Team. Who's driving the bus? Team, 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 and one more time, team. That's how I do it. I'd keep my team. I'd eat beanie weenies and cup of noodles, ramen, if I had to, 3 times a day, and live in a hostel if it meant if that was what I had to do to pay my team.
What's the best thing you spent $100 or less on that has greatly improved your personal life or your business life?
Books. I'll tell you specifically Gary Halbert's book, Maximum Money and Minimum Time. The first book, NLP book I read, which was Transformations, or was it Frogs and the Princes, by Bandler and Grinder. So those 2 books. And then a third book written by my meditation teacher called Breakthrough Pain. His name is Shinzen Young, the greatest teacher of my life and the smartest human being I've ever met.
And finally, what's the biggest challenge in your business today?
I would say we have staying focused, because we have so many different moves that we're making, that prioritizing them and making sure that, see, what happens when you're pivoting, Dan, is things will come up that are unplanned when you pivot, and you have to be very swift. So oftentimes you have to take your attention off of one. I don't care what people say, working on one thing at a time. It's bullshit when you're pivoting in multiple directions. And sometimes to win, you have to pivot in multiple directions. So I would say that's a really big challenge.
Thank you, Paul Ross, for hanging out with us. Hey, how can we get a free copy of your book?
Sure. You can get a free copy of my book and a video training on crushing objections by going to Paul Ross Book. That's pretty easy to remember. paulrossbook.com. And just as a side thing, there's going to be a little thing at the end to apply to work with me. You can try to do it. I don't think I have any spots in the calendar. I'd have to look for at least 30 days even to read an application. But if you want to see what I can actually do, how I got a client a 2,000% increase in his sales, as crazy as that sounds, he's an outlier. Usually it's 30 to 100%. This guy worked really hard, and this was an outlier. So it's not typical. Typical is 30 to 100%. But go to paulrossresults.com.
I'll put all those links in the show notes. Thanks again for hanging out with us, Paul.
Thanks,
Super
man.
informative, super valuable. I hope we can talk again soon.
Anytime.